But that's what we have to do as men, is like, to be truly inspired, we have to have a process. We have to have a regimented, ruthless focus of improving. And again, nobody's figured it all out. Nobody is a total master of things. It's all about practice. And, I love Darren Hardy because, Darren Hardy is the compound effect. It's all about, do you do this with a ruthless focus over time? And if you do, it's inevitable that you'll be successful. It's inevitable that you will love and trust yourself. It's inevitable that you will forgive yourself. You will not have these issues. And so, again, as a 54-year-old guy, I wasn't like this until I was 44, until I met my wife, who 12 years ago. She taught me how to be this guy. She used to laugh. She's like, "You've got this amazing physique, this amazing mind." She's like, "What do you do for your soul?"
Let's impact some today. I think we're gonna do a great job.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Man Podcast, where we connect men in pursuit of their potential. Before we jump into the episode, I want to encourage you to join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the podcast to get a new episode each and every single week, and share this with somebody else you know can get value from it as well. Now, to the men that are listening or watching, I encourage you to hit the show notes and check out the Noble Knights Men's Group, where you'll find the support, accountability, and the mentorship you need to achieve your goals. Join us and become a part of a community of like-minded men on a mission to improve their capacity for life. And I'm excited to get some wind in our sails today from my guest, who is a 5-time international best-selling author, men's physique champion, and the owner and co-founder of BioLongevity Labs, Jay Campbell, joining me on the podcast. Jay, it's great to see you, man.
Ted, what's going on, my brother? Honored, humbled, privileged to be here and communicate with you. And this is going to be an amazing show. So let's do this. Let's make it happen.
Let's jump in, man. I'm excited for our time together. And before we jump into questions, conversations, I want to let you grab the mic, grab the podcast. It's yours for a few moments. Talk to the people, tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, and we'll jump into more of the conversation.
Sure, man. So just real quick, high level elevator pitch summary. I'm almost 54 years old. I have 2 children, beautiful wife, 3 bonus children from her previous marriage. And then my current wife helped me manage my 2 baby girls. So we have a beautiful blended family of 5. My quote unquote claim to fame, and the reason I'm on this podcast here today, is because I've written a number of books on therapeutic hormones and using therapeutic peptides, and then a bunch of other stuff that came in between there, like fitness, fasting, optimizing your health. And again, I'm very blessed and lucky and fortunate that, a lot of people have read my book. A lot of people have been exposed to my teachings. A lot of people have been in my private membership groups and stuff like that. And I think to really sell myself to people, I think the reason that I have been able to build what I've built is I make very complex topics understandable and relatable to average people. That's kind of my gift. It's kind of my jam. I'm also a great connector. So I'm able to see things like, I see this person in New Zealand and I connect this person in Austin, and all of a sudden magic happens. So like I have this amazing ability to like really unite people and bring people together, and, combined with my knowledge of the arcane, esoteric biohacking world, if that's what you want to call it. Um, I've built some awesome stuff, and, I'm blessed to be on podcasts such as yours.
Yeah, no, I love it. And we could jump into some of that today. And I feel as though we've had the discussion on the podcast many times. And when it comes to the modern man, and for anybody who's ambitious, trying to optimize their output, optimize themselves, or perhaps they hit the mid 30s and they just can't get after it like they used to, Jay. It's something, whether it's aging, whether it's that competitive edge that has us tap into our health at some point in time as men after neglecting it for so long. So I like the term dig the well before you're thirsty, build the boat before the rain comes. How do we get ahead of this? Because usually when the check engine light comes on, that tight back or that pain in the knee, it's already been festering for a while. So let's first start there of this wave of attention to men's health that we've been seeing, and I guess what your interpretation on it is.
So step one, it's a great question. Step one is you got to get your biomarkers evaluated. You have to understand your blood work. You cannot move forward without an accurate understanding of what's going on in the insides. right? So, like you said, most people wait. My wife has a famous statement. My wife is also an influencer. I'm blessed. But she says, most people don't care about their health until it's gone. And that's a fact, right? Like tons of guys that are probably in this group are building their businesses and, attempting to get ahead and put that 10, 15, 20, 30, $50 million in the bank. And they don't take care of their physical body. And then they come to people like me, after they sold their company for 60 to 100 million and say, "Hey man, I want you to give me a plan for 90 days." And I'm like, I literally laugh in their face and they've already paid me a lot of money. And I'm like, that ain't gonna happen, dude. It took you how many years to become a metabolic emergency, 1 foot in the grave, MFer, right? So like you need to change your perspective because like you gotta get back to square one and it starts with like a plan. But the truth is like you got to get your blood work done. I talk to young guys and women, all across the world now about this, and you should start doing this at 18 years old. There's no reason that you can't. If you live in Canada or the United States or most, Western civilization countries, you can go online and you can go to private MD labs or discounted labs or direct labs or any of these places, and you can just get an overall male hormone and wellness panel. Private MD Labs is a company that I work with, and they've built an actual lab markup from basic, again, depending on a guy's economics, and this is women too, but basic, intermediate, advanced. And now I actually even have an elite panel if you want to spend 2 grand and really understand what's going on under the hood. But like that's step one. Because if you don't know what's going on internally, you can't be proactive and take steps to change and fix what might be an underlying problem. So most people complain and they're like, yeah, but if I get my lab work, then what? Now, I don't know how to read it. And I always tell people, I'm like, you can go on YouTube, you can go on my website. I mean, there's a million different people. I don't want to just say it's me, but it's pretty simple to understand your biomarkers. There's very complete tutorials, videos, courses, not even courses, just videos showing, there's probably hundreds of mine online that you could find and stuff like that, but it's not hard. And then once you understand that, you understand what you're working with. And again, Ted, very, very honestly, the average man in the United States right now has a testosterone deficiency. And that is because the environment is contaminated, the food is contaminated, the air is contaminated, the water is contaminated, the blue light that you and I are both with right now, which by the way, why don't you have your blue light glasses on? Uh, yeah, go get them on. We're all being annihilated at all times. Like I call it a full spectrum assault from modernization. And modernization, while it's good, it's allowing me and you, and you're in Charlotte and I'm in Tampa, Florida, to have this amazing conversation right now and bridging it. At the same time, if we don't take proactive steps, like with these, there's things you can do to your house, to transmute a lot of the EMF and transmute a lot of the Wi-Fi and the 5G and all that stuff. But the bottom line is all of it leads to a desecrated endocrine system. And when your endocrine system is not functioning well, uh, you get sick. And, I tell people this and they don't understand this, but like, again, allopathic medicine doesn't teach this, but, and remember what Chris Rock said, he's like, there's no money in the cure, the money's in the medicine. So they're not incentivized to heal you. They don't want to treat the fundamental root cause. They want to give you pills to band-aid the symptoms so that you stay hooked to their medications. But the truth is like, once you understand what you're working with from a biological biomarker symptom standpoint or biomarker measurement standpoint, then you can take proactive steps to cure it. And getting back to testosterone and getting back to hormones, like that is the crux of the matter. Most men and women right now are walking around in the United States with a hormonal deficiency. And as soon as you have a hormonal deficiency, everything else eventually breaks down. You're going to gain fat, your metabolism slows, your thyroid output stops. You don't obviously you put on you become inflamed. It leads to type 2 diabetes and all these other diseases. But I always tell people that like at the end of the day, the best way to live longer and stronger is by remaining lean. And that's statistically proven, scientifically proven. All the studies show that the leaner a person is as they age, the longer they will live from a physical life standpoint. Now, obviously, the debate is qualitative versus quantitative, right? Do you want to live 95 years and bent over in the spine? or do you want to live, into your 80s and 90s and 100s and being robust and jacked and, have a lot of muscle, pick up your grandkids, that kind of stuff, right? So it's a choice that we all have to make. But I can assure you that if you don't do this and you don't find out whether or not you're working with a hormone deficiency and then take steps to remediate it, you're going to be fat, inflamed, sick, and depressed by the time you're 50. Like that is inevitable. I mean, again, bro, I say this all the time. Like, go into any public airport in the United States and look around. And 70% of people are inflamed, obese, and metabolically emergencies. And when you're like that, and this is what people don't understand, and I have a very, like I said, a really good understanding of like what's going on biologically to people. When you're like that, bro, your default state is pain. So you don't have health. And so when you don't know what it's like to actually feel like you and I do every single day when you wake up in the morning, it's pretty difficult to be joyful, blessed, abundant, prosperous in your mindset because you literally suffer 24/7. And so, like, that's what I'm saying is like the majority of people in America today, and this is really sad, but their default state is suffering. They don't have any idea what it feels like to not suffer. And again, when you're fat, so you can understand this, and a lot of people again don't understand this, you are having a cytokine storm at all levels of your body 24/7 because all that visceral fat is causing suffering through cytokine storms, which are presenting as pain to your physiology. So you never feel good. People say when they see obese people, and I had obesity, and my mom died of COVID 2 years ago, but she was really morbidly obese, and so that all conspired to her death. But may she rest in peace. But she was like that for a long time, and you can't make people change, right? You know that, right? People have to choose to change. You can lead people by example, but you can't force, you can't proselytize. But at the end of the day, most people don't understand that fat, inflamed people are suffering. And they're suffering in ways that, people like us can't imagine because we don't feel that way. So it's like, how do we get those people to realize that there's a better life ahead of them if they take steps to make the changes, right? I mean, all we can do is talk about it and expose it like we are right now. But I just think that too many people in like the health influencer space, especially, don't really understand like what it's like to be a inflamed, I coined the term dumpster fire, right? But like a heavily inflamed, morbidly obese, insulin resistant, again, call them a metabolic emergency or a dumpster fire, what it's like to be them because they don't know what it's like to feel good. They
Yeah.
exist in suffering.
Yeah, and that's a terrible spot to be in, and you can only imagine that that continuation of it becomes your norm so much so that health is almost unfamiliar, and you want them to get back so quickly, or you want them to get back so badly, but like you mentioned, it didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't a 90-day program that got you there. It won't be a 90-day program that gets you back. And really quick, because I do want to get to peptides,
Sure.
testosterone, and more of the hormonal stuff, but just for anybody who might not be familiar, what's an endocrine system?
Yeah. So the endocrine system is basically just your hormones. It's basically the machinery that's measuring what works, right? So, like, you look at the biological system functioning of a human being, and you have three primary systems. You have your endocrine system, which is, again, your reproductive machinery. You have the thyroid gland, which is like your master temperature regulator. And then you have your pancreas, which is what produces insulin. So, you can't optimize one or two without optimizing all three. In fact, if you try to optimize one, the other two will eventually slow down and break, and then you'll have like a one, like a one. It's like a three-legged stool with one leg functioning and two legs broken. So
Yeah.
it's like I always say that if you want to optimize your physical avatar body, you got to go hormones, you got to go thyroid, and you got to go pancreas, which is your insulin, right? And you can do that through living insulin controlled, regulating your carbohydrate consumption, fasting, you know, eating enough protein, obviously doing all the exercise components, building muscle through resistance training, doing cardiovascular training, all the basic stuff you got to have down. But like, you really need to look at your system, your biological system functioning as a triune. So you got the endocrine system, which again is your hormones and your state of mind and your well-being. And then you've got your thyroid, which is your master regulator control mechanism. And then you've got your pancreas, which literally is allowing you to live in this world disease free. Because as soon as you become insulin resistant, you can't eat carbohydrates, you start putting on fat, and then that's what leads to sickness and disease. Because again, the more fat, the more inflamed you are, is what really creates all the physical disease states of cancer, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, eventually type 3 diabetes, which is neurological disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, all those. So they all result from those three things. And so again, if you're hormonally optimized, you're optimizing your thyroid, and you're controlling for insulin, you're going to live a long, strong life.
Yeah, and that's the goal, and that's the the end game that so many hope to get to. But as you mentioned, you have to get the basics down first. Let's talk to some of the guys who they have their sleep optimized. Thankfully, I'm still working on mine. If I'm telling on myself, I still got to work on my
It's
sleep. Jay,
hard,
I
dude. If
apologize.
you don't turn your Wi-Fi off in your house, nobody is sleep optimized. I mean, I sleep in an 8 sleep bed mattress, and I've got every tech you could possibly imagine in your house. And if you have Wi-Fi and you live in a dense population, urban population city, you're still getting hammered. You got to build a Faraday cage and sleep in a Faraday cage if you truly want to avoid all the EMF contamination. But no, I know what you're saying. I mean, it's hard, man. It's much harder to sleep now avoiding EMF than it was 25 years ago.
Yeah, and we work on it, but so from the sleep to resistance training, right? Cardiovascular training and all that. Um, we then get to the supplements and we get to looking under the hood, optimizing our testosterone levels. But I want to talk about peptides because this is
Yeah,
something we haven't dived into
for sure.
on the podcast before. And while we have the world's leading expert, I figured why not ask some questions.
It's a good
But
idea.
starting with peptides and hormonal optimization, what are peptides and why do you believe that they are a game changer when it comes to health and performance?
A lot of reasons, really. I mean, I think the biggest issue with peptides is, very truthfully, in 2023, when my book was published, which came out, it was written in 2022, but published on January 31st, February 1st. Uh, the world was looking for alternative forms of healing due to the vaccine. And my book just happened to be a book that just came out on Amazon. Now, obviously, I had a pretty good name as an author and stuff like that, and people positioned it and promoted me and put me on podcasts and stuff like that. But I found out really fast, Ted, that it wasn't just this gigantic idea that like, oh, peptides offer alternative form of health. It was more people that were suffering from what they were dealing with getting the V and the C's, or not the C's, the B's after it, and they were just looking for another way to break off from the bullshit of allopathic medicine to find something that would offer alternative forms of healing. So most people, even though they won't admit it then, they probably will admit it now because it's 2 years later. Um, that was their initial like foray into it. They're like, oh wow, I can take peptides to heal my autoimmune disorder, or I can take peptides to do this, that, and the other. Now, granted, again, peptides are there's thousands. We probably use 30 to 40 of them that people are familiar with because they're available, but there's thousands of peptides. There's hundreds of bioregulators. There's so many in it. There's so much in it that hasn't even come out that we're not even using. That's amazing. But again, as I was saying, it represents the change from like allopathic sick care, Rockefeller petroleum distillate medications, which when they break down in the biological systems, they cause side effects because again, they're petroleum distillate, they're oil based versus bioregulators and peptides are organic signaling molecules that don't cause side effects. So they break down naturally in the body. But the reality is that like you can use them for so many things. You can take a peptide for improving cognition. You can take a peptide to heal rapidly soft tissue injuries. You can take a peptide to improve skin elasticity. You can take a peptide to regenerate collagen. You can take a peptide to burn, fat and increase muscle. So there's like all these amazing things that they do, but it goes back to the same thing we talked about at the beginning of this show, and that is like without the basics, sleep, 6 to 8 hours of polyphasic deep restorative sleep, lifting weights and doing cardiovascular exercises, living insulin controlled, regulating your carbohydrate consumption. Hopefully, you're fasting for the autophagy and the hormetic effect of that. If you're doing those things, adding in peptides is going to be like an accelerant to your healthy lifestyle. If you're not doing those things, and again, this is the majority of people, peptides won't probably do jack shit for you because again, your body is not at a level where the tissues can truly and readily accept the effects of peptides because your body is broken. You don't have the foundational precepts, you don't have the basics covered. You're a mess. And again, I love my favorite word is you're a metabolic emergency. You're 1 foot in the grave person. So, I like telling people like they're amazing, but when used in the context of like that person being already dialed in, then that's when you really truly see the profound benefits. But there's a lot of people out there, for example, we can talk about GLP-1 peptides, right? The appetite suppressant that everybody pretty much heard about or knows somebody that's on Wegovy, semaglutide, Manjaro, Zepbound. I mean, most people that take those peptides are metabolic emergencies, and they don't change their lifestyle. The doctor doesn't tell them to change their lifestyle. They don't eat enough protein. They don't lift weights. They don't exercise. Blah blah blah. I can keep going. And so the side effects that come from those drugs, which by the way are the most profound probably drugs that pharmaceutical world has ever given us, and they're mostly positive when they're used correctly. But again, when used with uneducated, ignorant people and ignorant doctors who don't provide the right instructions, you get what you see out there right now, which is like lawsuits, thyroid malfunction, Wegovy face, Wegovy chin, Wegovy neck, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it just goes on and on. All these people are suing. And that's all not because the drugs don't work. It's because the people don't do what is necessary to actually allow the drugs to work. And so you've got this like giant, placebo, effect of all these people that say, oh, it doesn't work. And it shut down my thyroid or blah, 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 blah. And it's again, it's not that it doesn't work. It's that you didn't do the things necessary to make it work. And whether that's your problem or your doctor's problem or a combination of both, it doesn't matter, because we know what they do scientifically. We know through the studies. I mean, bro, these drugs are so profound. They change obsessive compulsive disorders. They stop people from drinking alcohol. They stop people from, gambling. They stop people from being addicted to porn. I mean, they're truly changing things in the brain and the serotonergic, dopaminergic, dendritic pathways that are positive. Like I've known a lot of people that were alcoholics, social alcoholics, and drinkers who stopped drinking completely from doing 1 month of a GLP-1 peptide. So the truth is that it's always a little bit of some before the other. As my good friend always says, it's like if there's negative news in the news cycle, they like to lead it. If it bleeds, it leads in the news cycle. So a lot of people see the negative repercussions or potentialities of GLP-1 peptides and they think they're bad. And then, like the famous doctors who I don't have to mention will jump on and glom on and say, see, I told you this is bad. You just need to exercise and take your vitamins. You know what I'm saying? But like the reality is that they're amazing drugs. All peptides offer therapeutic remedies in a lot of different ways, but you got to take it with a grain of salt that, like, hey, these are amazing, but I'm still not going to see the results that I could see if I had all my other things dialed in. So they're not magic bullets. And I think it's our job as podcasters to teach people that there has to be, discretion. There has to be context. Like we truly have to understand how to use these within the context of health and longevity, and they're not magic bullets. And I see way too many people, talking about them as their magic bullets, and they're not.
If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man Podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals.
Check out themodernmanpodcast.com. Yeah, I love that you framed it that way because it first takes someone who's been responsible, consistent with their health because
100%.
you mentioned they're amazing drugs and hearing what they can do from you, it makes me think of Spider-Man, his uncle saying, to with much power comes much responsibility.
Exactly.
And we're given this powerful drug, and yet we're not given the instructions or the proper the proper pamphlet on how to operate within it. So speaking
100%.
to the modern man audience who are a pretty elevated audience,
Yeah,
they're high performers, they take care of themselves, fitness is important to them, their
sure.
health is something they pay attention to preemptively. They don't wait for the check engine light to come on. They're going for they're going for their maintenance checks and their oil changes beforehand.
Got you.
Um, Now we have this powerful drug like a peptide to work with, whether it be BPC 157
Yep.
or something else.
Yep.
How do we how do how do the peptides work when it comes on a cellular level to cellular repair, metabolism, aging? What is this actually doing?
So, I mean, basically, again, they're signaling molecules themselves. So, all peptides are basically, I'll explain peptides and bioregulators, but peptides are basically small chains of amino acids. And bioregulators are actually smaller. So, like most peptides are anywhere from like 10 to 20 chains of amino acids in a sequence, and a bioregulator is 5 or 7. So, they're smaller. And that's also the reason why bioregulators can be put in an oral capsule versus peptides is longer signaling chains have to be injected. Now, there are peptides that can be taken orally and can also be used transdermally and intranasally, like through a mist. But always, without question, the highest impact delivery system is going to be injectable. And that's because it crosses the blood brain barrier faster, it gets into portal circulation faster, and it's just a more effective dosing procedure to inject. The funny thing is that most people are like total pussies, and they think like, how am I going to inject that into me? Needles, I'm out. I'm out. Like, dude, I could stab you in the face with this and you wouldn't even feel it. Right. But like, it's a psychological hurdle to get over what is called, and by the way, this is a bonus question for you if you know what it means, but you don't because nobody does. But the fear of injections is
Hmm,
called, if you
I do
if you can
not
get it.
know.
Yeah, I was gonna say nobody knows it. It's called
Injectophobia?
tyrannophobia, like Tyrannosaurus Rex. But
Huh.
that's what needle phobia is. It's called tyrannophobia. I swear it's crazy. But bottom line is anyone who injects a peptide or testosterone or anything is going to have tyrannophobia initially because it's a foreign thing. You don't know it. You don't know what to expect. You don't know if it's going to hurt. But as I always tell people, injecting peptides, testosterone, whatever it is you're injecting, it becomes like brushing your teeth. You do it once or twice and it's like, oh, there's nothing here. And then you start doing peptides and therapeutic testosterone, whatever, and you start seeing how your body changes if you're doing everything else right. And you're like, oh fuck, I think I'm going to take this forever, right? Because I mean, it's a game changer. But again, it is a game changer in the context of people who are worthy of having a game change to their bodies and to their minds and to their spirits, right? So it's like,
Mhm.
as you said, you got to do the work first and then allow these things to push you over the edge, right? So it's like if you're somebody in your audience right now, the modern man tribe, and you're 15 to 20% body fat, and you got everything dialed in, your business is good, your wife and kids are good, you're good dad, good husband, good business leader, but you got let's say you got 10 to 15 pounds to lose, and it's like all in your belly. You could use retatrutide as a GLP-1 peptide, which is a triple stage agonist peptide. A couple other things that I would recommend. You could literally lose all the 15 pounds in 3 weeks. And you would literally lose the fat, the weight as pure body fat. You wouldn't lose muscle. And it would happen so fast and so quickly that you'd be like, this is a fucking miracle. Like, I've never in my life ever seen fat loss like this. Like, how did this happen? Right. And that's what they offer. Again, when you're done within the context of health and longevity in microdose fashion with all the other things dialed in and understood. But that's what they offer. And there's a lot of people now finding this out. I just had a call before you today with the guy who's running my seminar, my annual seminar, and him and his wife started using retatrutide, which I told him to start using. And he was just like sitting there staring at me all Google eyed today, like, dude, what the fuck is this stuff? My
Mhm.
wife looks like she's 30 again. I'm like, yeah, dude, it's that amazing. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a lot of other peptides. We could talk about GH agonist peptides. You already mentioned the healing peptides like BPC at TB500, but peptides literally do offer a transformative experience when the person is doing the things necessary to transform. And I
Mhm.
think this is important to your audience, and I make this point to everybody that I talk to now, regardless, but people will never change, Ted, permanently until they can look in the mirror and feel themselves worthy of the change. So I can, as an expert on peptides and hormones and supplements and fat loss, I mean, I can go on stage against anybody in the world. It doesn't matter who they are, and I will beat them because I know I'm encyclopedic. But it doesn't matter who I teach the information to if that person receiving the information isn't feeling worthy of making the change. So
Yeah.
all the info on peptides, all the info on testosterone, all the info on fat loss, fasting, lifting weights, building muscle, taking small molecules, who gives a shit? If that person does not feel worthy of making the change to their physiology, and of course it's spiritual and also heart based, it's heart centric, it's not going to matter. They can listen to my information, they can listen to Andrew Huberman's information, they can listen to anybody's information, and they might, get results in 6 weeks. But guess what? They're going to default right back to who they think they are because they in their mind don't feel worthy of actually changing. So all the information about peptides and hormones and all these things we're talking about is amazing today. And it's great if you can listen to it and take it and heed it and change your lifestyle. But until you feel worthy of changing a lifestyle, it's not going to matter. And so that's why I always tell people. And by the way, dude, I'm 54. My wife taught me all this. Like I've always been a guru as far as like teaching people how to lose weight and get ripped and, you know, use peptides and take testosterone and all this stuff. But it was like I didn't understand the spiritual component until she taught me. She was like, look, none of these people that you teach are going to ever stay and look and do what you recommend because they don't feel worthy of it. And I'd always be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
What do
I
you
didn't
mean? Yeah.
understand that. I didn't understand that. But like, this is the most important thing that I could talk to about today because until you look in the mirror and feel worthy of making these changes that everybody wants to change, right? Like we all desire at our deepest roots to be ripped and feel good and have energy and, be able to have, insane amounts of sex with our wives or our girlfriends or our husbands or whatever. But it's like, until you feel worthy of any of that happening, it ain't going to happen. And I see so many people, right, who build their businesses. And again, like I said, they leave that, everything is on the table building the business. They let their health go.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, they would give up every cent if they could get their health back. Like literally, that's what it means. Cause I mean, imagine being worth 100 million and can't walk up a flight of stairs, bro. Not worth it. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? When I was a kid, my dad, who is still around, and I didn't truly realize the value of this statement at that point in time, but I do now. He told me this. He said, "Son, you only have two things in life. You have your health and your integrity. And without one, you have neither." And I was probably like 11 when he told me
Wow.
that. Yeah. I was 11 years old when he told me that. And I was like, okay, dad, whatever. But I mean, it wasn't until I was in my late 30s and early 40s, like right around your age right now, and probably a lot of the guys on your thing, that it really resonated with me. Because, bro, how many times have you had low back pains or some sort of debilitating injury in your life and you're just like, fuck, this isn't
Can't do
worth it.
anything. Yeah.
This isn't worth it. And so now extrapolate that to a guy who's worth 100 million, sold his company, and he's literally a metabolic dumpster fire. He's got an A1C level that says he's going to die tomorrow. He's got plaque in his arteries. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, if I can make a summary of what I'm saying, everything is about balance.
Mm.
You can't lean all one way. You've got to look at your life as like, okay, I can build wealth, generational wealth from my family and my kids and my immediate peers or with them, and I can do it in a way that doesn't cause my health to fail. Like I
Yeah.
don't have to throw everything into making the money and grinding, but I can do this in a way where I can do it all. And so it always goes back to balance. And that's why I brought that statement up of like, you have to be able to look in the mirror in the morning and feel worthy of what you desire to ultimately achieve, whether it's again, money, fame, looks, better body, better marriage, better anything.
You gotta
Right. And
you
that's
gotta
where
feel
most
it.
people fail, bro.
Yeah. You got to feel it from within, and it's something about identity. We've said this a while back. The concept of we will be true to our identity and what we tap into. So if we see ourselves as an athlete, we treat ourselves as such. We do what athletes
100%.
do. If we believe we are a drinker, we do what drinkers do. If we believe we're a drug addict, we do what drug addicts do. So it's changing that framing and that identity and who we are becoming. And we've said it before, you are who you are becoming, and you do it with the
Exactly.
actions that you take today. So it's be, do, have, not
Be,
have,
do,
do, be.
have. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so, so you'll love this. So, again, I have no problem telling people this. I mean, I'll be 54 in 2 weeks on February 24th.
You look good.
I do mirror exercises 3 days a week. I literally stare in my, and again, as accomplished as I am, and I have no worries. I, in my shower, when I shave, I have a ritual and I have, words of affirmation, words of power, and I speak into the mirror. And so, I don't know how many of your guys have ever heard this before. Um, when you do mirror exercises, you're not actually looking at you, you're looking at your higher self. So when you can actually look into the eyes of yourself, you're actually seeing your soul, spirit being at its highest and best representation. So when you can look into the mirror and say those words of affirmation, say those words of power, and everybody's got their own, something that's purpose driven, your mission or whatever it is. And, I have my own too. But like when you do that, you become connected to your higher self. And once you're connected to your higher self, that's divinity. You're never going to be let down. You're never going to be lied to. People talk about trust your gut, trust your gut. Your gut is your higher self. That is your divine intuition that we all have access to, but so many men, especially men more than women, because women are much more naturally intuitive, men shut down their natural intuition. How many men do you know literally like my gut told me, but I didn't do it?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the more you connect with that higher version of yourself, again, your highest and best expression of yourself, which is your divine nature inside you, the connection to source, God, frequency, whatever you want to call it, the
Mhm.
more you will be divinely led, divinely inspired, and ultimately worthy of becoming who it is that you ultimately desire to become. And there's no one that's watching this show that doesn't desire to become better. It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
not possible. There are people out there that don't want to be better, but they've got their own issues. But anybody who's watching your show or watching me, they want to be better.
Yeah.
They just might not know how to get better. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's like our job is to teach people like, hey man, there is no short circuits, there's no secrets. You know, whether you're born into money or you're not born into money, everybody's got to do the same stuff. And I'm telling you, man, the affirmations and the mirror exercises, when you can learn to connect with your higher self, and obviously that will lead you to doing more introspective and internal work. Every single morning, bro, I meditate for 25 to 30 minutes. I sun gaze. My dog is a little pit, he's not little, he's just getting older, but he's a pit bull, blue nose, and he sits and meditates with me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like everyone will, if you do it every week, every day, part of your life, whether you're traveling on the road, home, grinding, whatever, it's those little things, man. And for me, like my calendar has my affirmations in it. Since I've been on this call with you, I've had two things pop up, and I'm involved in this conversation and connected to you energetically, but like it's there. So if I wasn't and I was in the middle of my workday, I could like close my eyes and say, and breathe into that or think into that or
Mhm.
visualize into that. But that's
Yeah.
what we have to do as men is like to be truly inspired. We have to have a process. We have to have a regimented, ruthless focus of improving. And again, nobody's figured it all out. Nobody's a total master of things. It's all about practice. And I love Darren Hardy because Darren Hardy is the compound effect. It's
Yep.
all about, do you do this with a ruthless focus over time? And if you do, it's inevitable that you'll be successful. It's inevitable that you will love and trust yourself. It's inevitable that you will forgive yourself. You will not have these issues. And so, again, as a 54-year-old guy, I wasn't like this until I was 44, till I met my wife 12 years ago. She taught me how to be this guy. She used to laugh. She's like, you've got this amazing physique, this amazing mind. She's like, what do you do for your soul? And I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking
Yeah, mind, body, that's it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm reading all these spiritual books. No, dude, you're not meditating. You're not sitting in stillness. You're not actually out there doing the inner work necessary. So I
Yeah,
just used to be like, damn, teach me more,
do the
And
whole
so
thing.
now 12 years, 11, 12 years forward into the thing, like this is what my jam is now. Like I want to talk to people about like, how do you become a person who loves and trusts themselves? And it only comes from doing that inner work. And listen, Ted, you know this, like we come out of the womb and we inherit our parents' cultural mores, thought processes, religions, political beliefs, all this other shit that they give us and that, they got from their parents and their parents and their
Yeah,
forefathers. And it's like,
just
as a soul, like it's tough to evolve and grow. That's our purpose, is to evolve and grow as souls. But like, man, we're getting all this shit forced upon us. Like, you got to become introspective and go within to break free of the programming.
it's
And
the unlearning
everybody
that
has
we need.
programming, bro.
Yeah, we need
Everybody
to.
has programming, but it's up to
I
us, man, because nobody is coming to save us. There's no
absolutely.
savior. We are our own saviors. So it's like,
Yeah.
you got to learn, whether it's from a mentor, which I'm sure you guys are mentoring all of you guys in your group, man. It's awesome. But
Hmm.
men, for the most part, need mentors. I hate that word. Need is a bad word, that but you can choose, but having a mentor is huge. That's
Benefit.
huge.
Yeah. We talk a lot about the mentorship of others. We talk about three, right? Someone that's pouring into you, someone that you're running with, and someone that you're pouring into. That those
Yes.
three help give you
Love
that
that.
full perspective. And also it's unlearning that we need to do along the way.
Yes.
And becoming some a new version of ourselves.
Yes.
Questioning our beliefs. Why do we act the way we act? Why do we believe X, Y, and Z? To take us to that place of oh, well, I don't feel the same way I used to, and that's okay because I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm evolving as
100%.
I go. And now that I'm
Yeah.
settled into this new constant and I'm looking for that next level of who I can become, I'm optimizing my health, my
Yep.
relationships,
Yep.
I'm building relationship with self, my environment, those around me to live this optimal life that I know I'm capable of. And I know we just have a few more minutes left on the
Sure.
podcast. I want to bring it back to peptides really quick because I know
For
a
sure.
lot of guys are interested in looking into this in terms of the safety and the approach to it.
Yep.
But there's I know there's resistance, and not just from people who are afraid of the needle, but also from the medical field to a
Yeah.
certain extent,
Yeah.
right? Or what
Yeah.
you would say, more of the traditional healthcare or a sick care system,
Yeah. Sick
if you
care. Yeah.
would.
Sick care.
What
Yeah.
what's some of the biggest objections that face peptides that you see right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Right now, peptides are not accepted in allopathic medicine. So if you want to get on the peptide train, you have to go to a doctor that doesn't accept insurance. That's not your family doctor. It's again a functional medicine doctor or a wellness clinic or something like that. Who do prescribe peptides, and then even those guys are prescribing, off label or prescribing, for something that's technically not something that they're allowed to prescribe for. But again, as a doctor, they have the right to do that. Or you can do what I recommend, which is become empowered, sovereign, and free, and by research peptides and take ownership of doing this yourself, right? Learn how to reconstitute, learn how to inject yourself, learn what the right dosages are and proper protocols and all that stuff. And thankfully, in my life and then also in the global health of the world, more and more people are becoming that proactive, leader
Yeah.
and steward. And so they're going down that path. So it's just a choice. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, dude. And thankfully it's not like your generation or my generation. It's more of the boomers who just doctor's expert. My doctor said, and that's all they listen to. And and those most of those people, dude, will be dying literally in the next 3 to 4 years, herded off the cliff because they all listened during 2021 to 2023, and that's going to be their undoing. But the people that are more awake and more like, hey, man, I want to take ownership of my shit for me. My doctor is not the expert. I mean, I listen to them for certain things, but like, I'm me.
Yeah.
They're going to be using peptides. They're going to be using companies like my company, BioLongevity Labs, right? Like these are
Yeah.
people who are going to be taking matters into their own hands. There's so much knowledge, collectively now out there, in addition to my stuff, there's great information out there from other people that are talking about peptides. So it's like, in
Yep.
truth, there's a massive database of information and readily accessible, high quality peptides that people can take and use. It's just a choice. Do you want to do this yourself, save money, become
Mhm.
empowered? Or do you want to use, the functional medicine doc, which might be a great option for you, and you don't want to have any brain work or eliminate all the guesswork? That's your choice. So it's like one or the other. But like I teach people how to do it for themselves,
A
so they
good
don't
friend
have to
of
rely on the doctor. Because look, dude, here's the end of the day. This is the truth. Your doctor, whether it's a functional medicine doctor or insurance doctor, they're not going through your medical records trying to see how they can prevent you from living, or help you live to 90 or 100. They're not. They don't give a shit. They're measuring you when you come in and you have problems, right? Like I always tell people,
Mhm.
like, go to your doctor and say, "Hey, doc, I want you to help me live to 150." They'll look at you like, "What the fuck? What's the matter with you? Get out
They
of
don't
here."
know how. Yeah.
100%. So it's like it's your choice. Like, again, proactive, sovereign, empowered, and free, or
Yep.
dependent. And so you
Yeah.
have a choice. And I don't, begrudge anybody. If you want to choose the easy way, have the doctor make it for you, send you in a form in a bag and just say inject at 20 units, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just know
Yeah.
you're going to pay 10x and you're not going to be in charge,
My
versus the people that can buy and do it themselves and put it in their
Mhm.
refrigerator and have complete control. So again, it's kind of like, I like using this term, peptides are like the crypto of finance. So it's totally decentralized medicine. How
Got it.
decentralized do you want to go? Do you want to have a cold storage
Yeah.
device, or do you want to have it backed up to the cloud? It's
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
choice on how you do this. Obviously, if you
Mm.
want to have it backed up to the cloud and rely on the docs, it's going to be a lot more money.
It certainly will. And Jay, I don't want to run out of time. I know a good friend of mine, he always says your health is your responsibility. Shout out to Dr. Raymond Nichols for that term. But where can folks connect with you, get the education, learn more if they want to jump into peptides responsibly and get the research and get the ability to become empowered, sovereign, and free?
Yeah, man, love that. Easiest way to find me, I'm very accessible, is on social media. I'm Jay Campbell 333, which is the angel number. Okay, connection between master teachers in spirit, mind, body.
Yep.
And then my website, which is the biggest website, probably in top 5 websites in the world now for peptide related information, hormone related information. It's jcampbell.com. And I have
Mhm.
a special domain URL for whenever I go on amazing podcasts like yours, where people can get access to all my content totally free. All my books are all available as a PDF. It's jcampbell.com/free books, and go there and you can download
Thank you.
like all my badass books. So like there's tons of free information there. So like I said, man, I give all my stuff away. I'm humbly indebted and grateful to you to be on the show here today. So thankfully, hopefully we could if this information helps one person, then it helps the world.
Absolutely, and that's what it's all about, rippling forward. I'll have those links in the show notes below or in the description if you guys are watching on YouTube. Jay, I appreciate you so much for sharing your expertise, sharing yourself.
Thank you, my
Five-time
bro.
international best-selling author, men's physique champion, and the owner and co-founder of BioLongevity Labs on the podcast. I appreciate you. And really quick, a couple of the gems you left along the way, man. You said, look under the hood, right? You first need to know your blood work. You need to get the numbers. Most people don't care about their health until it's gone. I
Yep.
encourage you to start caring now. The best way to live longer and stronger is by remaining lean. So just keep that in
100%.
mind. And if you are inflamed, if you are obese, if you're carrying a high BMI, you are in default, you are in a state of pain, and that is no way to live.
No,
The drug doesn't work unless you do. And that is for the
exactly.
peptides. It's not a miracle drug that's going to change your world. You need to first do the work and be the person worthy of the change. And you must first see yourself as worthy of the change. Of course, using your highest effective delivery for the medicine via injection, and then looking in the mirror, looking at your highest self, giving that affirmation moving forward. Become empowered, become sovereign, become free. If you need help, Jay has you covered. I'll have those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for making it to the end. As we always say, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain, but you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's go.